Tempo Storm's pulling out all the stops, at least when it comes to playing all together as a team synergistically. They just seem to be on another level in the first 2 games versus Space Station. And if Space Station can't figure it out, couldn't use that break to figure out what they need to do to defeat Tempo Storm, Tempo might just send them home here, guys.
It's looking like that's the case to me. With the dominance, Tempo Storm is picking maps that is uncharacteristic to them because, again, we talked about the strategic value that's providing, and they're looking clean with their play. I just go, you aren't going to stop them. They are backing up the words that, like I said, they typically do when they talk about North America.
Are Gale Force a little scared watching Tempo Storm play today?
I'd be worried if I was Gale Force, to be completely honest. I think Tempo Storm is looking like they want this playoff so bad.
Yeah, having to go through playoffs for the first time, not auto-qualifying for an international event, they feel a little angry, a little hungry. Let's see if they close it out. It's going to be taking place on Sky Temple. Space Station changed things up. First pick didn't work for them in the last 2, so now they're going to go to a battleground they chose. Is this the place where we start seeing some unconventional Space Station strategies, maybe?
Perhaps. I do like, overall, I mean, we've already talked about Tempo's pick-ban map strategy quite a bit, but I also like that they're punishing teams for selecting first pick. Largely, a lot of teams will pick first pick because they expect the enemy team to choose a map they're comfortable with, and the fact that Tempo is able to hide strats at the same time while utilizing that strategy, I think is really cool.
I completely agree. It's been, Tempo Storm here has been a pleasant surprise today. I feel like on multiple fronts here. Strategically, when it came to play, the draft, everything has been working out for them. And they're going to start this potentially final game off with a Tacet ban. Not going to allow Space Station to represent on that Tacet Tracer. Is there anything? Well, never mind. ETC is automatically going to be removed for Space Station. Pretty standard, though, for both of those bans.
So Tempo, if they continue with the trend, they have been prioritizing the Vala in that hypercarry position. However, they have also prioritized certain supports with the Vala.
Right.
And at this point, yeah, okay, so they continue with the trend of the Vala. I think that's overall good. My only criticism, I didn't really talk about this too much, but it is one thing that's just at the back of my mind that I have to bring up. I think in the games that Tempo has been picking Vala, she has been a little bit underutilized in the sense that Strafe has been the ultimate selection in times when I think it should be Rain of Vengeance. Specifically on Warhead, the matchup was into Brightwing Emerald Wind, it's interruptible.
It's great.
Falstad, when he flies in or looks for the Gust, that is also delayable / interruptible. And against Garrosh, it also would have had a good matchup. So I do agree with the Vala prioritization, but I think Tempo might be underutilizing to get the maximum value out of that pick. But either way, it's working really, really well for them, so it makes sense for them to keep it up.
Greymane and Uther for Space Station Gaming, a bit of skirmishing out from them, and it feels like maybe a step back to what we have known more of Space Station Gaming here. For better or for worse, we're about to find out. Typically, I would argue strategically, when we see a team with a lot of pressure on their shoulders and they go to old roots, it's usually out of panic more than out of confidence or a pocket strategy, but hopefully Space Station's got more in store here.
Yeah, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that this isn't like a despair-based strategy and that they still have their composure, because there is a lot of merit to the Greymane Uther rotation. It, like you said, it does play with their comfort picks, but the Malthael Brightwing priority, I think, I don't know, man. Tempo's draft is already so scary. They have Vala in the hypercarry position and Malthael, the two heroes that excel most in long team fights. So from Tempo Storm's perspective, the last 2 picks to secure their win condition, all they need are picks to draw out the fight. They need a warrior who can peel for the Malthael and Vala, and they need a secondary support. And Space Station, they have the tools to utilize that, and that's why they opt in to ban the Tyrael. Tyrael is an incredible support tank when it comes to supporting his carries.
A support.
Yeah, there's some aspects of Tyrael in which you can consider him support-like.
AoE Divine Shield, boys.
Exactly. AoE Shield.
Gotta say, I actually was kind of hoping Space Station might take that Tyrael with what they currently have set up.
I was completely agreeing with you. I actually felt like the only reason I like this ban is if they end up going into like that kind of Arthas to play into that protecting, peeling warrior and then deny and synergistic with their composition. But again, I am always a fan of the Tyrael. The playmaking capabilities of that hero, it feels like unmatched.
Especially Casanova yesterday.
Very
had
good.
An awesome Tyrael. And we've seen Space Station here and again, every once in a while, be willing to play that protect the Greymane style composition of old with an Uther and Tyrael. So I was kind of hoping we would maybe get that here in Sky. But Tempo may be punishing Space Station for banning so heavily into warriors by taking away Garrosh.
So from the perspective of the secondary support right now, what we have available to us on Tempo's side of things, Medic is an option, Oriel is an option. I'm not sure what else looks incredible. Rhaegar would be a decent option if they want to play more of a macro-oriented game. But from Space Station's perspective, how do they counter the incoming double support? They decide Zeratul Falstad. It's good for the macro pressure, and also the isolation potential from the VP is very, very good.
It's last pick Diablo, right?
I mean, that's what they've shown previously.
Yeah.
It's comfort for them. They've shown success with that Wombo style of play. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but I think you're right. I think there's a high chance it's a Diablo. We could see a Lucio from Tempo, but now that there's the Wombo potential, I don't think we'll go into that Lucio.
Yeah, I'd like to avoid it.
Rhaegar or Oriel here, if they do go into double support. I'd be very surprised if they don't go into double support here. And I don't know, Coughlin has a preference for Lili. We could maybe see that again.
There is enough auto attackers, you're right. We might get the Lili. I'm down. Always down, but we need Water Dragon, right? Like, that's the rule to Lili. You got to get Water Dragon.
We didn't get it last time, so I'm moving on. Coughlins going to play Brightwing. We'll see something else. I'm over it. We didn't get the Water
I would
Dragon.
like to see June's Brightwing. One thing that, like, June in particular on Brightwing that I noticed, he does a lot. He's really good at using his E before damage comes. I mean, that sounds pretty straightforward.
But it's actually really hard.
It's actually a big deal, and he's really good at that. And they end up locking in the Oriel. I think that makes a lot of sense. They kind of telegraphed exactly what they wanted for a long time. But think about this game from the perspective of Malthael. Tormented Souls is going to get so much value this game, I think, unless Jason plays like out of his mind with his Gus.
One support to try to stop all of that.
One support to stop Malthael.
I know. That's fairly scary. I kind of thought maybe we would see a Lucio from Space Station to deal with a Malthael, but even picking Diablo into Malthael, although I said that yesterday about Space Station, they ended up winning the game versus Superstars and their Malthael. Can they do it here, Dread?
If they're always initiating, I think there's a chance. Like, their composition, I'm not as convinced unless Tempo Storm is comfortable moving into the cleanse again to be able to aid with that secondary support situation that they have. If Space Station Gaming opens every fight with a 3-man void, again, this basic win conditions that we set for them yesterday, it is realistic that they can still blow up this double support. It is not as good as maybe some other strategies to approach a double support, but it still has the if the void hits and if the Wombo goes through, no supporting is going to put up for that. So I just hope that Space Station constantly tries to initiate, because if they're reacting, it's never going to happen.
Yeah, it's purely execution-based, is Space Station's style of composition. We saw a similar one on Braxis earlier today, and then yesterday we saw one on BOE. I'm not a huge fan of when SSG runs this sort of playstyle, so I do favor Tempo Storm in the sense that they've already shown in all 2 games prior to this that they're comfortable running a double support Vala.
Yeah.
So I favor Tempo Storm here.
Well, let's see if Tempo Storm could close out the series 3-0. Thank you, Glau. We go into Sky Temple. Production room throwing out some airplane sounds as we get into this game. A possible final game for Space Station.
Potential final game for Space Station. Tempo Storm has got to be thankful, though, that it could, in fact, be that one, setting themselves up for, I mean, a clean 3-0, and more importantly than anything, the fact that they had shown maps that they are most likely not wanting to play into Gale Force Esports, the opponent that they, in fact, would be facing tomorrow. It is a bit sad that we see this level of dominance from Tempo Storm here against Space Station, but it's almost inspiring at the same time, right? The old guard of North America struggling for some time, but sticking together, the longest standing roster that we have here in North America.
By a long shot.
And they're able to overcome their difficulties and work together to at least find themselves back to a dominant position here in North America. They're still not there yet, but they're putting up a real good argument.
3 different role swap iterations in part 2 of Phase 2. 3 different times switching around, knowing that something wasn't working and they had to make changes. They had to figure something out if they were going to even stand a chance of qualifying for HGC Finals at BlizzCon. And yes, it did set them back somewhat. They had to go through the playoffs, but their mentality, their synergy as a team, the time they've spent together is helping them out so much. The boot camp everything focused on these 2 series, and they are very close to getting a 3-0 victory in the first one of them, and that would set them up beautifully for the final series versus Gale Force.
And I think that even though Space Station Gaming here is maybe struggling against a team like Tempo Storm, we can't take away from what they've been able to make happen so far. The youth within this roster, the role swapping, I mean, you cannot say enough nice things about Casanova and what he's been able to make happen this year. And so I just want to give credit to Space Station Gaming as they are in a very tense situation here. We're only seconds away from these first 2 temples, and it is going to be very important that Space Station Gaming sets the tone for Sky Temple here.
Global versus Global with Falstad versus Brightwing as Falstad heads down to join Brightwing in the bottom lane.
Not a good laning matchup for either side up until 7, then Falstad slightly pulls ahead of the Brightwing.
Tiger JK finds a stun on Som. Trees is there too for the damage. Space Station willing to duke it out for both of the temples, but Zeratul shows up and delivers, taking out Vala for first blood.
Equinox flaunting there onto that Zeratul. We've talked about how it felt like he's been, you know, maybe a bit lackluster on the Zeratul so far, a bit more of like a walking void, but already here on Sky Temple, bringing out the claws. Good body blocking here on Katha. Again, Brightwing does not really enjoy this 1v1. She is a placeholder laner. She pretty much just out-survives everybody because of her passive healing. And she's not bad at wave clearing. She's not good. She's just kind of, you know, if you will. And so that is why we see that laning setup there. Once we get the Boomerang online, you can expect Space Station Gaming to feel advantageous whenever the Brightwing versus Falstad matchup is there.
Brightwing's going to shift in. Fury hits 2 with the Impale, but not in time for a setup of positioning for the follow-up there. And plus, the traditional follow-up heroes that you would have are elsewhere dealing with camps, just trying to make sure that Tempo Storm are not dealing taking too much damage from Space Station Siege. Som gets the Giants. The Giants started for Space Station Gaming too. Tempo Storm now, where do they set up? Do they try to run over and steal the Giants? Looks like they just want to get as much pressure as they can get done with the Vala Ariel with the Giants, but Space Station getting theirs too shouldn't be able to do too much there.
It will be very important for Space Station because, again, they're rounding that advantageous 1 versus 1. Hold up. Nice initiation.
Oh, man.
Giving him the suplex. Casanova shows no fear here. And that is the 2nd kill now for Space Station.
Yeah, that is some angry play with the Diablo Zeratul synergy. Getting to see that, and this is pre-10. This is before the other Diablo Zeratul synergy with Void Prison APOC. Space Station are not ready to let this series go.
June getting a really nice detainment strike there, pretty much breaking the rules of geometry. And now Casanova and friends, he was very thankful that he got that auto attack and movement speed debuff. Otherwise, that would have been a very easy flip onto June.
This is so much damage being done to this bottom lane. We're not even at second temple phase, and the fort's down.
Space Station Gaming abusing the fact that they got themselves the Greymane up in this, a lot more auto attack damage than they had before, and more importantly, that timing, because the shrines and the manner that they were taking, we know they're going to come online around that 445 range, and because of that, it has allowed them to essentially just abuse this time window that the Giants were picked up, but they were too soon compared to the shrine timing. So very good punishment here for Space Station, and now they can bully the hell out of Tempo Storm.
Yeah, Cattle is going to try to do that a little bit on his own, too.
Cattle?
But he's been seeing stun hits from Tiger JK. Equinox is there. Phase shift, not in time. In the nick of time, Space Station take out Cattle, and that is another kill for them as we get ready for the second Temple phase.
You can definitely tell that Tempo Storm thought that had to be one person for sure on top of that, try and force that out. But Space Station, they had a bit more tricks up their sleeves or in the shrub. Either way, they've got their heroics, and they're capturing these shrines. They have the structural advantage. This just looks like a different Space Station.
It does.
From what we saw in Game 1 and 2, this is insane.
Yeah, whether it was a pep talk, some sort of motivational speech, maybe Huge got in the comms, calmed everyone down. That is the coach of Space Station.
Shadow Assault.
Oh.
Hello? Divine Shield, you have to.
You have to. Yes.
Am I getting memed?
This is it. This was the grand plan.
There's
no VP APOC, though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that they picked the Zeratul and then are unwilling to. I don't know if you've ever played Shadow Assault Vala into Emerald Wind Brightwing, but the answer is just no. Like, just ask me how I felt about it. No. Ask me if I enjoyed my time. The answer is no. Unless with the new Brightwing rework, and forgive me, I don't experience too many Shadow Assault Zeratuls in my time, unless there's some kind of interaction there I'm missing, making it kind of kittywampus, this is going to be a very risky choice for Space Station.
When they were in such a lead.
It's like Nova on Tomb. is what it feels like here almost.
But
I have no idea.
That let's just see. We have to see. That's all we can say. It's been so long since Shadow Assault was a thing, and
since it was bugged.
They didn't even hold on to it. They just picked it.
And that makes me go, is it a fat finger? I don't know. But we're going to assume that this is not the fat finger. This is the Shadow Assault. Now, Tempo Storm, they do go with that Emerald Wind. Again, that is going to be very, very difficult to deal with. Also, post-16, with either one of the talents that we see Brightwing end up picking up, it's very, very good at dealing with Shadow Assault Zeratul.
Tempo Storm ready to aggress onto Space Station. They have Tiger JK caught inside of this cocoon. Jason flies in. There's maybe a gust that he can use to try to save, but no. Space Station don't want to lose any more for this. They're willing to give up their Uther, knowing that the respawn timers are still not too bad before they'll be able to get him back. Making a good decision, right? Even under pressure, they have the lead. In a place where maybe we would see Space Station start to panic because they didn't want to give up that lead. Instead, they're willing to cut their losses.
That was huge for Tempo Storm, though, because now they're in a situation they were so far behind with how things had kind of unfolded throughout this game that it was kind of right at the edge of the breaking point. And ultimately, with how big of a lead that Space Station had with this Shadow Assault Zeratul, I'm not confident in their team fighting, to be frank, with this Shadow Assault. Again, we're going to see whether or not we can be proven wrong here.
Here we go. Caterpillar's going to use Tormented Souls. Equinox and Jason just willing to get out of there, especially when Gotham Luck phase shifts in. They are just happy to force that waste of Tormented Souls.
I mean, anytime they can do that, it would be a winning trade. And Shadow Assault is also a very, very short cooldown.
Yeah.
Is that got to be the core mentality? Maybe baiting the Aegis, baiting the Emerald Wind too soon, get the disengage by teleporting out, and then reinitiate later? I don't know. We're about to find out. We're
Lessons
yet to
will
see.
be learned by all today.
Well, you know what? It's a beautiful, beautiful situation when everybody gets to learn here.
Two Temples as a setup for this next phase. Space Station with the 13 advantage and structural advantage. A-OK with just playing to the map. Trading out on the Temples gives them some keep damage already with all of the damage that they did to the bottom lane earlier on. While they're focusing in that, they've got fall setup in the top lane soaking to keep that lead going.
Tempo Storm, though, is got to be at least thankful in the fact that they were willing to trade while being a talent tier down. It's understandable, again, for Space Station Gaming, but that is not a common situation that you find yourself in on a map like Sky Temple. It's just important that they do not let this get to them. Now that they're at the 13 talent tier, they need to force a fight before Space Station rounds out that 16, which will be conveniently timed right around the next Shrine phase. So Tempo has to be overly aggressive over the next few minutes.
The collapse is coming into the bottom lane, which is where Zeratul was. He's got some escape paths. We'll use that. Only one mercenary camp even up, and with so many people gone, Tempo can theorize that that is where Space Station was. They get that. Looks like the setup is in maybe for Tempo Storm to try to just take down that fort. They are on the same talent tier, so it is an okay place for them to get into a fight, try to force a fight so that they can start to catch up to Space Station before Space Station gets that 16.
Tempo Storm with that final fort, we know that with the bottom keep down and the pressure there, they have the global advantage over the Brightwing, but it's not enough to kind of have that backdooring all-in play that we typically see. But remember how we saw Equinox babying the Brightwing who's defending the core? That isn't the same story with a Shadow Assault. Eventually the polymorph is going to be burned, and one Shadow Assault is all it would take to get that kill.
That hand of protection. Equinox survives, Space Station lives, didn't have Falstad there, do not want to fight until they get 16. Look, we didn't even talk about what Shadow Assault. Everyone knows what Void Prison is, but just in case we have people watching who aren't quite sure what Shadow Assault is, basic attacks for Zeratul give him a charge, a lunge, and then he has increased attack speed for 4 seconds. It is a 45 seconds, so it's half of what we have for Void Prison. So a little more, less than, or more than half. I can math. It's fine.
And the only time that we've ever seen Shadow Assault in the past, there was one moment where it was meta, and it was only because it was bugged on a teleport. Essentially, you could just dive in. Talking about dive, though.
Here it is.
Full collapse. Tempo Storm doesn't have 16s, so they're still willing to flank this, just pressure them into the keep. Casanova.
Jason's gone. Casanova's the only one that Tempo Storm can catch now. He's the only one. A Detainment Strike will throw him into the wall. He goes in, does a lot of damage with Devastating Charge, eventually goes down. Souls reset. A nice win for Tempo Storm, but they couldn't get more from that, and he bought so much time that Falstad gets onto the point and can barrel roll out.
Zeritzel's doing work on bottom, getting soak and just clearing out the wave. He's legitimately proxying over those giants down there. And Tempo Storm still out of their 16 Talonteers. Taking out those souls on Diablo, though, that is a very squishy Casanova now, which might be a bit more vulnerable here to Tempo Storm's hard crowd control. Caterpillar with the game sense, able to move out. Talking about game sense, though, Falstad caught out. There goes the cocoon onto Uther. Tempo Storm is ready to make things happen with 16.
They're ready to fight, so how does Space Station deal with it? Try to disengage as best they can, but Casanova won't get out of here. Does with the Divine Shield for now, but there's no fort to retreat to. Hand of Protection, everything provided to keep Casanova alive, but a final strafe is enough to take him down. And this time he won't immediately respawn. That's 45 seconds without the main frontliner for Space Station Gaming. Tempo Storm has some opportunities. There's a double tempo phase, and they'll take both to get back into this game.
I do think that now we see Zeritzel still constantly split pushing over and over and over again. I'm beginning to feel like it has to be to deal with that Brightwing so that he can actually threaten the core. I'm still struggling to see it. He's not transitioning for team fights. He is very much the Lone Ranger here into the bottom lane. And maybe looking to kill out on that Brightwing. Talking about the Brightwing, though, we are post 16 now, and she has got a brilliant talent to be able to aid with that Zeritzel.
Critterize.
Moving into the Critterize, a huge amount of burst. But this boss, we have Gust.
No Diablo, but he'll be up in a few. For APOC, it's not enough. He's just not back up in time. Gust was used, but that's it. Delays as long as they can, but Tempo Storm will still, at the end of the day, get this boss.
They get the boss. How much more are they going to get with this window, though? They can't let up any kind of pressure. They either have to take out some of the pressure through mid, or they need to siege up with this. It looks like Tempo decide they want to move with it, but they're going rather slow. Cattle possibly caught out. Forces an Aegis from June. No teleport from Brightwing quite yet. Nice knock-up. Going on to Greymane, and Tempo Storm get another kill as the Cocoon has got a pretty present inside.
Yeah, and as he comes out of the Cocoon, we'll see Uther be cocooned in the gentle embraces of all of Tempo Storm. Cattle Wraith strikes to teleport and body block. Tiger JK lives for now, finally falls. APOC as Casanova comes back, throwing Psalm into the keep.
Throws him into the keep, but nothing gained there. The boss is going to be collabing with Tempo Storm now over in that bottom keep. I think they should be able to get this. Very first keep of the game for Tempo Storm would allow to balance out that pressure up in the bottom lane. The boss falling low. Falstad might want to flight Gust. Jason, you see him sharking around. He's kind of questioning if he can.
He was considering it.
At least a barrel roll, something.
No Shadow Assault for 10 seconds. Keep for keep down. Top lane still in favor of Space Station, but the experience is far better for Tempo Storm now. Getting that later structure, getting some kills. That has put them in a position to get 20 ahead of their opponents.
Is there any world where Zeritzel is able to find a pick somehow in these later stages with that Shadow Assault? It is a cooldown that he can burn casually, but again, Brightwing can hold her own. Ario's going to typically be with everybody else. Vala should have the supports with him at all time, and the other two have done a pretty good job of dealing with the Zeritzel.
Well, we've never seen it be a full 5v5 fight with Shadow Assault and Divine Shield. It's always going to be this split out kind of style for Space Station, which it was working.
Are they going for core?
Yeah. Yes. It looks like it.
Yeah, they are. They're at least baiting Zeritzel for now, trying to see if the reveal is enough to get a kill. Space Station Gaming pulled ahead, and ever since, it almost feels like ever since they chose the heroics, they have been afraid to teamfight, which is something I don't think I could legitimately ever claim for a team who got a level and a half advantage pre-10, almost ever. And I can appreciate the variance. I mean, let's be real here. I said I do want to see some kind of talent variation here. But Shadow Assault with the Diablo and the synergy, I just didn't feel like that was the direction I was hoping.
Yeah, especially for a team fighting team. We know Space Station is not afraid to fight. They manipulate Tempo Storm to the bottom of the map with the Giants, with the positioning, and they send Jason up for the final few shots, but the base is all but gone for Space Station. There's a sliver of health on their final keep, and then there's just the core standing between Tempo Storm and the end of the series.
Tempo, they're marching around. Zeratil's still doing the side soak work up on the top lane. He's even got a backdoor that top keep. That's not enough to give Space Station their 20s, but it will reveal Zeratil for a small window. We'll see if Tempo Storm tries to collapse onto that mid keep. That's equally low. There's the reveal. Tempo looks like they're moving up for a moment.
Yeah, Cawthon's keeping Equinox in for now.
Shadow Assault used just to get to that sidewall.
Keep goes down. Tempo still going in. Brightwing phase shifts in. A power play while Zeratil is not here and Tree's caught. Immediate Divine Shield to let him get back.
Emerald Wind is not going to be used, but the APOC combo. Ice Bucket dodges all of it. Tormented Souls used by Cattle as the members of Tempo Storm working onto the Falstad. That is Jason dead on the backline, and now Tempo Storm have a man up.
No Falstad, no Gust, and this simply just may be it. May be the end of the series as Tempo Storm confidently step onto the core of Space Station and start bringing it down. Space Station doing everything they can. They pull the members of Tempo Storm out, but Casanova is all but dead. He finally
60?
goes down. Tempo Storm continuing to fight. They take out Equinox, and that should be enough. Tempo Storm, even being down so far in this game, able to make the comeback happen, and they'll take out Space Station 3-0 and move on tomorrow to face Gale Force Esports.
Gale Force Esports versus Tempo Storm to be the final battle here of the playoffs in North America. The old guard versus conveniently another old guard. Really, it's just going, one of them has to essentially rid of the other, and I feel like we could have not asked for a better situation. The youth of North America, Glarng is pretty much the only veteran, I would argue, out of that roster, and